Delilah.
Hello, my friends. Hello. Welcome to Love Someone, summer 2026. How is your summer going so far? Are you a shade lover or a sun seeker? Do you love being out in the heat? Or are you more like me and you like being in something cool, like a creek or a lake? I love to be out gardening. I love to be out exploring. This summer, we are rock hounding. My kids and I have been going and finding great rocks and geodes to crack open and having a whole lot of fun. I don't know if today's podcast guest has ADD, ADHD like I do. I don't know many people who have it like I do, but I do know that he is an outspoken advocate for mental health. He's very transparent. He's very honest. He's very eager to help the next generation break the stronghold that mental illness, mental health issues have had on so many of us. David Nail is a multi-platinum singer-songwriter from Kennett in the boot heel of Missouri. He's been on the country music scene for a number of years. He's had Grammy nominations, ACM nominations. He's had over 1 billion with a B, streams. His multiple number one hits include Let It Rain, love that song, Whatever She's Got, Red Light, and Nights on Fire. After building a respected career in Nashville, David split with his longtime record company about a decade ago so that he could address his mental health issues and embrace a more independent chapter that prioritized honesty over expectations. Got to dig into that when we get to talk to him. Recent projects such as Oh Mother, the Boot Heel releases, and 2023's Best of Me reflect a more organic, reflective approach to his music, much more organic than his earlier works, with songs centered on family, memories, mental health, and the hard-earned perspective that comes with experience. Now he is entering a powerful new chapter with this album we're going to talk about today. It's called Flowers. His first full-length album after multiple EP releases and some singles drops. The title and the cover art, even the handwriting for the title, are all from his mom, Donna. The album is a result of a long collaboration with several writers, one of them being Lori McKenna. Lori wrote Humble and Kind. You might remember that Tim McGraw recorded. Lori contributed her writing skills to many songs on this new album, Flowers. Flowers is 10 tracks in all, each one telling an honest and emotional story. They're little mini movies. When you listen to them, when I listen to them, I can picture the whole story playing out. That's what David is all about these days. No more chasing trends, just vulnerability and authenticity for music that resonates on a much deeper level. The Crown and Fare Thee Well were the first singles to drop, and She Knows was just recently released. The full album will be available August 21st. We'll be chatting with David right after I have talked about one of my fabulous sponsors. Hey, Geller Gals, how's your summer going? Is it busy like mine? If the answer is yes, you're probably short on time to do all those little things for yourself, like working in salon visits for hair color touch-up. My fabulous friends at Laura Geller Beauty get it, and they are here to help us. You'll be delighted to hear they have a brand new product just for this problem. Their 2-in-1 root touch-up cream and powder for hair and brows instantly provides 100% gray root coverage in seconds while adding the look of natural fullness, all in one easy product. And thankfully for me, no skills required. On one end is the precision cream. Just twist and dab onto your roots, scalp, and brows to build coverage. Then flip to the other end and set with the powder for a soft, long-lasting finish that will stay all day. It won't smudge or rub off onto your clothes. Easy peasy, summer breezy. It's available in 5 different colors from black to blonde and is ideal for all hair types, working beautifully on fine and mature hair. Ready, set, summer with Laura Geller. Root Touch-Up Cream and Powder, available at Amazon and at laurageller.com. David Nail, welcome to Love Someone with Delilah. Happy summer 2026. It sounds like your summer is summering.
It is. It's warm.
Warm.
Three kids doing, for the most part, 3 different things. Of course, you can't stagger them. It's always like the same week that they're doing everything. And so it's today's one of those days where you're just sort of trying to line up help and depending on neighbors and friends, but it is what it is. It makes it interesting, that's for sure.
So you've got 3 kids, twins that are how old?
They're 10 and then a 5-year-old who's going into kindergarten.
I did a little research. Actually, my pod producer did a little research and found out that you've had over 1 billion streams of the music you've been releasing the last 10 years. 1 billion with a B. I had to double check that. 1 billion with a B. So yeah, you've been busy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed. It seems, it's funny. Like my kids, we don't have a whole lot of plaques and pictures, and I haven't won any awards, so there's none of those lying around the house. But thankfully Alexa allows them the opportunity to. I'll hear my kids every once in a while asking Alexa to play some David Nail, which is a little weird to be in the same room when they do it. But they could care less. They don't know what a platinum record is or any of that stuff. It just looks like a picture to them. But when you start throwing around, the billion word, their ears perk up. Then now you get their attention a little bit.
All of a sudden, Dad's got cred.
Yeah, and I did many, many moons ago. I think it was the first tour that she played headlined her first stadium was a baseball stadium, but I did 10 shows with Taylor Swift. And so my girls think that Dad's really cool. I saved my dressing room sign and she signed it, and I'd completely forgotten all about it. My wife found it and showed it to them, and my oldest daughter freaked out. She was like, "Man, I want to take this to show and tell tomorrow." And my wife was like, "How about we take a picture of this and you can take the picture?"
So let's talk a little bit about your wife, your journey. You are very transparent and open about your mental health journey and bringing awareness to that. But through it all, you've managed to stay married, unlike some of us on our mental health journey. Can we talk about that for just a minute?
Well, it's funny because I feel like I met my wife when I had just released my first single, "I'm About to Come Alive," and I think it was on the radio for maybe 3 weeks, so not exactly the start that I wanted. But I remember sort of trying to educate her on the business and sort of what she could expect, and I'm never home, and all these things. All the while, we're moving very quickly. Within 2 months, we were living together. Engaged within 6 months. Married in, I guess, 14 months from the day we met. So we were on the fast track, to say the least. And I didn't know. I'd never been through it, so I didn't really know exactly what I was talking about. And then 2.5 years into our marriage, I sort of bottomed out. Obviously, I thought it was something new. But it was pretty much the worst kept secret, not only in the music business, but in my own household. And I told her, I said, I just, I can't, Let It Rain had just been a #1 song, and I just couldn't find any, real joy. Despite all these good things happening around me, and I just knew that wasn't normal. And so that began this journey of sort of trying to figure out a solution. And
So what were you doing that you think you're so unlovable that she would be gone?
it was just hard. Like, yeah, it's one thing to be able to have something to sort of point to, or you can go, well, okay, well, babe, this is why I'm this way. And I didn't have one of those things. I'd had a great childhood. I'd great parents, stable, raised in church, like pretty picture perfect. And so, but as a result of that, um, I I felt guilty for why I felt the way I felt, and why I was always sort of down in the dumps. And
And how many years has it been now?
we just celebrated 17 in June,
And if she
which is
were
insane.
here with us, would she be saying, "I'm so glad I stuck it out"?
Hopefully, she would say yes.
I have a friend that she's long past now, so is her husband, but they had been married like 50 years. And she told me that on their 10-year anniversary, she said to him, sometimes I don't even know if you love me. And Cal replied, I told you I loved you the day I married you. If anything changes, I'll let you know.
Dang.
So tell me about flowers. I love flowers. I am a rabid gardener. And I understand that the artwork and the handwriting is your mom's.
Well, just the handwriting, and it was a freak thing. And I mean, it's not exactly verbatim her handwriting. Everybody talks about AI being so terrible. I got on the AI train pretty late, with necessarily like what you could do, and everybody in music just hates it. Um, but I sort of, you know, it's twofold. There's a song on there called "I Bought the Flowers" that I wrote about my daughter, my oldest daughter, and and then when they asked me what the title of the album was. I told them, and they told me that that wasn't good enough, which is the first time I'd ever been told that. And so I, was offended and told them that this was something that meant something to me. And so they said, well, we just think that there can be more to it. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll spend the weekend listening to it, and I'll just see if something speaks to me, and if it does, then that'll be it. And if it doesn't, I tried, and that was our compromise. And
So what was your working title? What was the original title that they threw out? Now,
no, I threw it
yeah,
out. It was just DN. I felt like this record really represented me. So initially, I was like, well, it could be self-titled, but I'm too stubborn to just do that. I had to put my own twist on it. And so DN was my way of saying it's self-titled. And they were like, that's terrible.
boy, am I glad they said that's terrible, because Flowers is
Yeah.
beautiful. The songs that I got to listen to, I didn't get to listen to all of them, but they were sweet and tender little stories. I felt like I was like when I listened the first couple of times to The Crown, or where you're saying goodbye. It's like a little movie was playing in my head.
Lisa, we still see the Queen. It's like you were 17, standing there in your homecoming gown. Even though you lost your way, heaven knows the price you pay. You'll always have a home in this old town. I know some will try and tear you down, but I still see the crown.
I could see the whole little story play out. They're very sweet stories.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think that I was telling somebody earlier, I have a really difficult um, time with sort of imagining what other people would say or what other people would do or somebody else's life. For really my entire career, I've been writing for myself and told to write for myself and recording for myself. So um, I never really had to work on that, and so it's always been something. As long as I've done this now, it's been very challenging. It's sort of, if I sort of say, an idea or whatever, or a line, and somebody says, oh, well, I think it should be this. I'm like, well, I wouldn't say that. Well, I wouldn't do that. And there's a couple times, well, somebody will say, well, what you did is not as interesting. Or what you said was not as interesting. If we're trying to write the best song, like, let's change it up. And I'm like, yeah, but like, then I feel like I'm lying.
So the stories, I mean, the homecoming queen story, that's clearly someone else's story. Is it true? Was it somebody you knew? Or
It is very true. Somebody I knew very well for 18, 19, 20 years. Um, and then obviously, more or less completely lost touch for 20 plus years. But a friend of mine that I still keep in touch with had sort of gotten in touch with this particular person and more or less just said like, hey, when this sort of thing that you're going through or this place that you're in, when you get out, are you gonna come home? And she said, no, there's no way. She's like, they know the me that left when I was 18, 19 years old, and they're not prepared for the person I am now. And I just thought that was the saddest thing I'd ever heard. I was like, man, if every single um, critical decision moment in my life, heartbreak, whatever, like that's the place I leaned on. That's, it wasn't even a decision. I would just sort of find myself driving home, find myself calling my parents, and find myself calling my childhood friends. And so I just thought, man, if you can't go home, where the hell are you supposed to go? And so that's what this song was, about, was just like, hey, and I said something in the interview once, and I wasn't even trying to come up with some cool thing to say. I just said, I'm not the judge. And this song's not about being the judge. It's just about being the messenger of like, hey, um, you're this is where you need to come. And we're here for you. We'll always be here for you. We were here for you for 18, 19 years, and we'll be here if and when you're ready to come home. And I haven't actually been in uh, contact with her, but I do know that she did come back, and I think she's, I don't know, thriving is too aggressive of a word, but I know that she's back on her feet. Um, at least, the quality of life and the choices are a lot better and a lot more positive.
that was going to be my next question. So thank you for sharing that. When I listen to it, I have a habit when I see somebody in pain or sense somebody's in pain, or I'm talking to a caller on my radio show that's in pain, I just start praying. Like, I just like, God, please reach down. And when I was listening to that song, I listened to it 2 or 3 times. I said, please, God, let her know that she is a daughter of the King of Kings, that she has a crown so much better than a homecoming crown, and that she is valuable and loved. Please, God, let her know that. So I hope that someday she feels how precious and wonderful she is.
Yeah. Hopefully people hear the hope in it, and hear the sort of the plea of like, we're here, and there's really, I don't want to say nothing you can do to sort of change our view of you, but like, we're here for you, and we can we can figure this out. You know, we know who you are, and we've sort of raised you as a community, and we can, there's nothing that we can't figure out together.
We're hearing David Nail's story today, and there's a lot more to come. But first, I want to tell you the story of an incredible sponsor. I'm so glad to get to share all that Mercy Ships is doing in the world with you. They travel to medical deserts, providing free, life-changing surgeries to people in need. Led by an all-volunteer crew, they've been putting their faith into action for almost 50 years. Mercy Ships is all about impact. They've performed nearly 120,000 free surgeries to date and touched more than 2 million lives. But more than the numbers, it's about dreams restored and lives renewed. It's about loving someone. You can be a part of this amazing organization. When you support Mercy Ships, you experience the joy and transformation. A mother seeing her child for the first time. A child finally able to run and play and dream and just be a kid. Visit mercyships.org to give or learn about the other ways you can get involved. That's mercyships.org. Sounds like you had a pretty awesome community around you growing up. You are very blessed.
I am, man. I just got back from there yesterday. We went for the holiday weekend, and it's weird, I think, my wife's from Memphis, and she's grew up in a city, and I think she thought she'd been around small towns and stuff, and when she first, she'd hear me rant and rave about where I grew up and everything, and when she first went, I remember the first time she came to my hometown, she was like, she wasn't exactly hooping and hollering with joy, but over and I couldn't really explain it. I think more than anything, it's just when you grow up around a community, in a community that's so supportive of you and sort of your life and your family, it really becomes a part of who you are inside. So it had I not wanted to be a singer, I would have never left. And maybe if I went to college, I would probably come back. And work there because I never really wanted to leave. I wasn't prepared to leave. I felt like I had to because, this is before American Idol. They wasn't coming through Kennett, Missouri to look for the next singer, So, I sort of came here reluctantly because I felt like I had to. But I love it. It's so special, especially this last year going through, my mother getting extremely ill and then ended up passing, like just watching them rally around my father. It's in a weird way. It's, I remember thinking, and it won't ever be the same, but I remember thinking like, am I ever going to be able to go back? And it went from that to like, now it's like, sort of like a hug. It's sort of like a comforting feeling to be back there and, be around people where if I have a weak moment or I get emotional, they know, they understand. I don't have to explain it, And so it was really good. And my kids have grown to love it. My wife's grown to love it. My wife was like, "You want to stay an extra day?" I was like, "No, I got some stuff I got to get back for on Tuesday." So we came back yesterday, and but I assure you, the first couple of times she went, she wasn't asking to stay an extra day. When my mother's parents passed away, my grandfather passed away. My mother had stayed. She stayed in my hometown. They never went anywhere because she took care of her parents. She was the only kid that lived in the town, so she took that job and did a wonderful job of it. So I respected her so much and admired her so much for taking the initiative to do that. And so then when my grandfather passed away, It was like, oh, well, now you have time. She'd been retired several years. Now you have time to travel. They went on 2 trips, and then my mother um, got to where she couldn't travel, certainly not very far. And and I think there's sort of, I don't want to say bitterness, but like, it was sort of like, man, I sort of missed out on all this stuff because I was caring for my parents, and then I got sick, and it sort of never, you push things off, and then something happens, and there's never time, or you're never allowed the opportunity. And so, they would come visit us, and they'd make comments, about things closing or people moving away, everybody's getting sick. And ironically, last year on the 4th of July, I came home and I just sat down and I was just like, man, I don't know how y'all feel about this place, meaning my hometown. I said, but I thank the good Lord every day that I was raised here. And I said, you're in your late 70s now, and I'm sure that there's things that you wish you'd seen and done and stuff. I said, but, everything that I am now is because of how I was raised, who I was raised around. And, it sort of gave me an appreciation, of, I was 21 before I seen the ocean for the first time. I was 27 before I went to Disney World, and I went by myself. It was pretty sad. There's certainly some parents looking at me like, who's that weirdo? But it was, I've gotten to go to so many places and do so many amazing things. But I actually started the song, ironically, this morning, sort of about that. It's like, no matter where I've gone, no matter what I've done, I always come back. Like whether it's an event or something, just I've never at any point in my life have ever been like, I got to go back home. I got to go back to that town. Like, I love it. If my wife wasn't such a snooty city girl, we'd probably live there.
And I'm glad you're sharing your music with us. DavidNail.com, correct, for tickets, because you're doing very intimate little shows.
Yes, ma'am.
You're taking August off, though, right?
We got a few things in August, yeah, but this is my little one's starting kindergarten, so down here we start. It's like every year they start a few days early, a few days earlier, and so initially I thought it was August 1st, but they pushed it back a few days. But I told him, I said, if I'm not there to take my kindergarten or do kindergarten for the first day, I said,
you got to do it.
Man, she may burn the house down. And that's my little one, not my wife. My wife would be like, she understands, she gets it. But the little one, like, I wasn't there for her preschool graduation. I don't think she talked to me for a month.
Well, thank you for talking to us. I just pray God just blesses you and continues to use you to sing songs to our hearts.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all taking the time, and thank y'all for being flexible too. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon, honey. David Nail's intimate Down to the Studs tour, where he performs solo, just a guitar, stories, and songs, is currently ongoing. He's enjoying reconnecting with audiences in listening rooms and small theaters across the country. He'll take much of August off, but will be back on the road in September. He remains guided by a simple philosophy. Stay truthful, keep growing, and make music that means something long after the moment passes. Visit davidnail.com for tour info to get tickets and to pre-order this new CD called Flowers. I do appreciate David coming on board and sharing the news about his music, his tour, his journey. We're all on one kind of journey or another, with some legs being more difficult than others. David discovered the best thing to do is reach out for help, to exercise, to hold on to family, and to channel his talents into this great music. which is no longer about chasing trends, but about being authentic. The summer is heating up. I sure hope you are staying cool. What do you do when things are heating up and it just feels like too much? Take some clues from David Nail. Let people in, let friends help, and when called for, reach out to professionals. Move your body, exercise, and find a pursuit you love, a passion you love. Even if you're not good at it, it doesn't matter. If it brings you joy, follow that passion. And oh, hey, join me in the evenings. I'll be right here playing your request and your dedications and sharing stories just like the good old days. Until next time, do me a favor, take some time out of your hot summer schedule to slow down and love someone.
Delilah.